Hey, good morning and welcome to today's episode of Talking to Artists. So it is once again a gorgeously stunning Thursday morning at 11 o'clock and I'm very excited to welcome you and thanks for joining me versus being outside for an amazing walk or something. A couple of interesting things to talk to you about. I'm actually decided very last minute to do the online cottage show. So if you are looking for a speedboat or a dock or some art for your new cottage up in Muskoka, because I know a lot of people are spending a lot more time at their cottages this year. Please check out the Cottage Life virtual show. It is obviously free to participate, and they have speakers. They've got a lot of resources. There are a number of artists there that basically create work that's kind of capturing nature, and it's all about being part of nature. So I encourage you to do that. Angela Lane and Jamie McLean are two other artists that I know that are also doing it. So should be a lot of fun. Okay, so today I'm going to talk to you about, no, I'm not going to talk to you about, I'm going to talk to Julie Boer, who is an artist that's based out in the prairies. So she's, her time zone's a little bit behind ours. So thank you so much, Julie, for waking up early. And I'm just going to invite her to join us. Oh, Julie, looks like you need the latest version of Instagram to join. So hope you heard that, Julie. You need the latest version of Instagram to join because I can't seem to join to add you on unless you want to ask to be invited to join. So until then, I will talk a little bit more about what I'm working on. So I'm actually in Toronto just for the day to drop off some packages from things that have sold from my little treasures from my website. Just as an update, I've just added a whole bunch of new little treasures onto my site. So if you're interested in having just a little bit of pop of joy in your life, then that's a good thing to do. Or as I like to refer to them as quarantreats. You know, we've all done really well in isolating. And so it would be nice to treat yourself to something that's kind of fun. So anyway, that's one thing you can do. And I'm running out of stuff to talk about. Hey, Julie, I'm hoping that you can come on board. I'm wondering if this person, sorry. Okay, well, Julie, hopefully I'd love to have you join because I'm really looking forward to hearing her art. I think she's actually just in the process of updating her work. So a couple of other things. I'm working on on a few commissions, which is always fun. As people know, I really enjoy doing commissions, and I have a zero risk commission policy, which basically means that a client can move forward with a commission and feel really comfortable that they're not going to be stuck with something that they like, but they don't totally love. But actually for me, it allows me to do the work in a way that's just, allows me to do the work the way I want to do it. Keeping in mind the client's criteria, but not being kind of bound to it. And so that's something that's kind of important. Oh, and it says, nice to see all the posts of your new work. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's my new collection I'm working on. Thanks for reminding me. She's kind of prodding me on something to talk about. Yeah, it's kind of, I've been looking to try and do something a bit more floral for quite a long time. And I've been sort of struggling. I used to do very large, more realistic flowers, but they kind of didn't interest me anymore. And so I'm really enjoying kind of incorporating more floral, I guess, shapes and imagery without obviously them being natural florals, but still kind of hopefully capturing them within my own style. So, which is kind of fun. And so working through those, just finished, I think I just finished, I don't know, I have to look at it again. I posted it last night, this black one called that's Resilience, which is going to be uploaded hopefully to the AGO website because they're doing a whole talk on resilience and how people kind of have had to really dive deep and really build their kind of resilience to get through this this COVID deal. So, and oh, and to say yes, you see lots of little pieces behind me. So not only am I an artist, I really believe that as an artist, if I expect people to buy my art, that I should also support my local community and buy their art. So, so just to I'm just going to move out of the way for a second. This is I'm actually doing this in my bathroom because it's got the best light. And so you can see what I've done is I've run out of wall space literally. So I now collect 6-inch by 6-inch paintings. And these are from the glass vases one I picked up when I was at an artist community visiting when I was doing Art San Diego. And so I'm going to just invite Julie here. And I'm a huge supporting the artist community. So I buy a lot of art. I like to support artists where I can. Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you? I'm so sorry. You think I'd be better at this by now. It's good to meet you, Kate.
No. Well, no, it's great. I was just running out of things to say, and Angela, who's a friend of mine, she kept prodding me. Oh, maybe you can talk about the art behind you. Maybe you can.
I know, right? Oh, my apologies. I'm
No
here.
problem. I'm so glad you're joining me. And so you're
Yeah.
joining us from Saskatchewan, right?
No, actually, Alberta. I live between Calgary and Cochrane, southern Alberta.
Oh, okay. Oh, I guess maybe were you born in Saskatchewan? I seem to remember there's some Saskatchewan words, but maybe I'm
I'm
totally.
I'm represented by a gallery in Saskatchewan, but that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining me. I didn't really get to use too much of an intro because I was sort of babbling about a lot of other stuff. You're basically an abstract painter, and I think that the thing I love about your work is you sort of take the lines and the energy of kind of nature and natural settings, kind of like I do as well, and then create these beautiful, happy, colorful works. But
hmm
maybe you can talk a little bit about how you got started. I gather your mother was an artist, so you come by it naturally.
Yeah, that's right. I watched my mom after once the kids were all in school. She decided to teach herself how to paint, and so I got to have front row seats to that. And yeah, she grew a very healthy career as an artist here in Alberta, and was gallery represented and was collected all over Alberta and beyond. And I had no intentions of following in her footsteps. So it was quite funny when my kids were all in school. I got the same sort of itch, I guess, and bought some paint and some big canvases and just started self-taught, at least for the first few years. And yeah, it was not my life plan, but I'm so glad that I scratched that itch 11 years ago.
Yeah, for sure. And did you kind of, I'm assuming then that your current style, which is a bit stylistic, has kind of had to evolve over the years, or did you kind of sense that that's what you wanted to do, or how did that happen?
Yeah, that was a process for sure. It was not the way I wanted it to come out of me. So I wrestled with it for about 2 years, and I tried and tried and tried to paint the way I saw other painters paint. If I would go to a gallery and there were certain works that I loved and was always drawn to the same thing, and I tried for 2 years to try to teach myself how to paint that way, and eventually threw in the towel. And I just decided, okay, God, however you put it in me, let's just go for it. And I let loose, and all of a sudden, this really flowing style came out of me. And right away, I was getting connected with galleries, and kind of the career piece started when I let go of that piece and just let it come out of me the way it was intended to come out of me. So it was a process for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting how that can happen because I was just, as I was babbling and waiting for you to come on, I was talking about the fact that for a while I've been really wanting to do, I really admire these beautiful florals, like Nicole Allen does and all these beautiful things. And I've been sort of trying to play with that. And I came to the same realization. I was trying to force something that, although I intellectually felt I wanted to do it, I felt like emotionally maybe that's not really what I wanted to do. And so I've just kind of finally found, I think it's still nascent, but I think it's the beginning of kind of being able to capture the energy and the essence of those florals without them being representational. But it's
hmm
hard sometimes to listen to that gut that is opposing your head, right?
Yep, that's right. And trusting your gut. It's such a big piece because you're putting yourself out there so kind of naked. I feel like on the canvas, you're pouring your heart and soul and your thoughts and imaginings onto a canvas for the world to judge and see and decide if they like it, if it's any good. So it's really hard to trust that the way it's in you is good and it's right. And you just need to lean into that for sure.
Well, and especially when you're doing something that you're not seeing a lot of other artists doing. Like I think sometimes it's easier to kind of go, if I can paint like these painters, then I know I'm doing well because I know that they do well. I know a lot of people like that work. But when you're doing something that's quite different, I agree. I think it's hard to kind of go, so is it good, or am I kind of scamming the system, or like, is it really something that kind of speaks to me?
That's true. It took me actually a few more years after I did start leaning into my own voice It took me a few years before I liked what I painted. I actually really didn't like what I painted, but it resonated with people and they were buying it, and galleries were wanting to represent me. And so I just continued to trust that it was the right thing to do. And now I love it. Now I get it. Now I know how to do my style with colors that resonate with me. I do a grayscale sort of series called Light in the Darkness, that's for me. That's my favorite. But I'm learning to appreciate how it comes out of me and to get the feedback from other artists and my clients and collectors, to hear what they're saying and to actually let it land right. That I'm doing something that is making an impact for them, which is a great privilege. So
Yeah.
I don't want to second guess that.
But how did you? That must have been hard though, to kind of have this weird push pull between you're not sure if you love what you're doing, but you must be getting something out of it because you're continuing to do it, and yet everyone around you is telling that they love you and love you and love the work. So I think that must have been a really hard thing to kind of navigate in terms of making sure you were following your own true path when it sounds like you weren't really totally sure yet.
Yeah, it was tough because I was doing it not for myself. I felt for a number of years that I had a responsibility to do it for others, which is kind of odd. And now I do it for both myself and for others, and I enjoy the process. But yeah, there was that piece of me that was like, okay, I've been given a gift that's kind of begging to come out of me. It's not resonating with me, so what do? Do I stuff it back down and ignore that kind of desire to create, or stick to it and see what happens? So I'm really glad I stuck to it.
Was there something that happened? Like, was there a catalyst or something? You all of a sudden kind of had that aha moment when you're like, yeah, no, this is all the pieces are coming together.
Yeah. I think when you get to a certain age, especially as a woman and a mother and a wife, and you wear all these hats, and eventually when your kids kind of don't need you so much anymore, and you find yourself, I guess, revisiting who you are and why you get out of bed in the morning. I think when I got to that point, which I think was in my late 30s, I really, questioned my motives and said, okay, is this going to be me? Is this going to be the hat that I wear long term? Is this going to be part of my identity? Is that healthy? And so, I just went through the process of questioning all of those things, and and decided that I had to really lean into, again, my own voice. And then that's what the Light in the Darkness series came out of, was sort of that process of reflection and challenging myself, and giving myself the gears and deciding if was to do this for me, that I've served enough. I've raised my children. I've been a stay-at-home mom for a decade or two, and this is going to have to be for me, because it's time to pour back in to myself and sort of start that phase of my life.
And you talk a little bit on your website about how faith is really important for you. And it sounds like from some of your language too, that there was something maybe inside you that you felt, I don't know, maybe God or faith had given you this talent, and really it was not really yours to squander. You had to do something with it. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. And I think that's something that that we all probably wrestle with in some way, whether we give God a name or not. I always felt this privilege that I got something that other people didn't get, and that other people wish they had gotten. There's lots of people I hear, wish they could paint or draw, but it's just not in them. And I always challenge them on that, by the way. But
the hours developing the skill set yet, right?
yeah. So a piece of it is that if God designed me to have this ability, not to say it was all put in there ready to go. It required a lot of time and effort and honing and developing. then I can trust that it's there for a reason. Feel like a puzzle. He put me together with certain pieces, and that's a big piece he used. And I might be foolish not to use it and use it well.
Yeah, and at least push through and continue to explore it. Well, I think obviously you've landed on something that is really, I mean, it's very uplifting and it's very joyful.
Thank you.
I of course love color, so I'm attracted to the colorful ones. But
Yeah.
I love the idea with your light and darkness when being inspired by storms. That's another thing. I think it's interesting you kind of talk about storms not being negative, and I totally agree. Like I love a good thunderstorm, and I think it cleans things out. And I don't know, but you were saying that that's your favorite kind of work to do.
I'm a contrast junkie. I love anything that is contrast. So whether it's color or, black against white or shiny against matte or soft against a harsh edge, I'm just a nut for that. So storms have that contrast. They're frightening, but they're beautiful. They're powerful, but they're natural. And it's so much like life, right? The stuff that's hard in life is really good. It sucks, but it's really important.
Yeah,
And yeah. So storms are similar. They're a necessary part of life and nature, and we can raise our fists to them or fear them, but I think I just prefer to sit and watch and see what happens and enjoy even the process of watching a storm. I think there's a lot of good life comparisons in there.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I think that there is definitely that energy and that dynamic energy you really feel when you're in the middle of a storm. Like I'm British, so of course I love to be in the storm and get all wet and really, then you really feel the air changes when you're kind of there. So I think it's interesting that you're using that as a catalyst to try and capture that in your work that is calming versions of the storm somehow. Like it still captures the energy and yet the lines aren't aggressive. I think that's right. The feeling of it. Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm glad. That's what I'm going for. I don't want, I like the edginess of it, but I'm definitely leaning on and trying to capture the beauty of it. And I guess the fruit of it. Like I did a big piece for Artem Gallery in Infamira that's a giant. It's a tall 60 by 40, and it's a big storm cloud, and at the bottom is the rain and a tiny little farm. But it's all lush and green, and there's a silver lining on the big storm cloud. So the idea that, it's beautiful, and let's try to squeeze all of the good out of life when stuff gets hard. And I know it's hard for everyone right now with this phase of life here in the pandemic. But there's been so many good things that have come out of it for me that I try to remember when I'm frustrated with the situation. So I think it's just a perspective, challenging the perspective.
And how do you typically promote your work? Like you said, you're in a number of galleries. Excuse me. So I'm assuming that they do their part, but it's been challenging for galleries during COVID. Hopefully they've been open where you are. They've certainly been closed in Toronto. So are there other vehicles that you use to kind of get the word out there?
Yes, I am. I am on obviously social media on Instagram and Facebook. Instagram has been fantastic. It's brought me a lot of business and a lot of exposure. And I also have my website and my newsletter subscribers. I don't email often enough. Something that I need to work on. I'm not the best. Well, I'm just so busy. And then I have Leveling Up, which I think is another way that I get exposure to another segment of the world. What else do I do?
Well, that's that's enough to keep you busy. You know, even if you do Instagram properly, right? Like it feels like that's another full-time job, right? And yet I know there's people that kind of say, well, you can outsource it. And I've never really been able to figure out how do you outsource your voice and your opinion and your authenticity to somebody else. Like it feels like it has to be something you do, right?
Yeah, it kind of does, I think. And you can buy followers. I've seen that. But yeah, to have a good, natural, normal following takes time and effort. And yeah, there's definitely weeks where I just put it on hold and I don't worry about it, and other weeks that I post all the time because I'm feeling positive and productive. But yeah, we're all and trying to be honest too. I know I put a happy face out there a lot of the time. I try to also not hide when things aren't going well or I'm struggling. I think people appreciate, obviously, the authenticity of the artist journey and just being human together.
Yeah, and I think there was something recently on the CDC about toxic positivity, and I think
Ah,
it's a combination of, like, for sure you want to kind of have a bit of a, keep positive because that helps other people be positive. But when everything's always has to be positive, then that actually creates some really negative impacts on your body and your health. And so,
interesting.
yeah, which
Yeah.
I think that there's, I'm seeing two different types of people within COVID. Some that are really struggling and they're very open about their struggle. And I'm not sure I personally can be that open about how I'm feeling if I'm having a bad day. And then there are other people where everything's always beautiful and happy. And like, neither of those feel totally like what I want to really do that.
hmm Yeah, that's true. You have to be careful putting yourself out there, I suppose. If you open yourself wide open, then you risk being hurt or judged. Yeah, that's definitely something that I wrestle with too. I'm maybe a too open person, and I often put my foot in my mouth or overshare or whatever. So learning how to balance that, and yeah, it's a funny place to be. Oh well, we're all
Well,
just trying to figure it out.
the reality is that your art is also very much tied to the person that you are, right? So,
Mm,
like some things that people do, it isn't quite so closely connected to who you are, which means it's really hard to sort of separate the work from the actual person.
hmm Yeah, and sharing personal struggles and whatnot. Like even as I was sharing earlier here with you, I can see all these hearts coming up and people resonating with what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone just wants to be honest and be able to share and be vulnerable safely. So to be able to do that a little bit for myself encourages other people to do the same thing. And then
Mm-hmm.
we're slowly building a world that is a little bit safer, right? And a little bit more honest. So yeah, I think we all play a role in that.
Well, hopefully, yeah, all come out at the end of it just that much
Yes,
healthier and safer. Yeah.
yes, yeah.
So you're talking about busyness, and one of the things I really love about what you do as an artist is you give a lot back through
Mm.
your leveling up program. And I had to laugh when I read your kind of profile about what your commitment was, because it kind of says your belief is a rising tide floats all boats. And as you know, I'm chair of the Artist Network, and I probably say that phrase so many times. They're like, enough, kid, enough with the rising tide thing, right? And I think it's a perfect analogy, and I think artists should do that even more than they do. But anyway, I thought that was really funny and wonderful. So maybe
Oh,
you can
good.
talk a little bit about your leveling up program, because it's obviously mentoring from kind of emerging artists as well as established artists. And well, you can share your story program.
Yeah. Leveling up is basically I built, when I say I built it, I mean me and my team. There's three founders, including my husband and I, and a team we have, which is fantastic. But yeah, so we built it. I built it for myself. We were doing it for leadership training, and then when we started with mastermind groups, I realized, oh my goodness, this would be perfect for artists. And so we tested it last September, and it just went crazy. I started with David Langevin offering mentorship groups once a month for a small group of 8 emerging and aspiring artists, and they filled like lickety split. So we did another, and then we reached out to another master and another, and now we're global. We have 22 master artists from around the world and 160 or 70 artist members from around the world. It's remarkable. So what it is connecting artists, aspiring, emerging, even professional artists, with mentorship from master level artists who are avid teachers and who love to teach and share and who hold nothing back. And yeah, it's been really beautiful to watch. Our hope was that it would be a community building endeavor, not just a career building tool for artists. So we crossed our fingers, and it has totally been a great community builder because I think we do it in small groups. So you're put in a group with 7 other artists at your same sort of level stage. We do the best we can to make that a good fit. And then you begin a journey together with a master. And it's not just about that one meeting a month in between. Your group gets to connect as often as you like on our chat platform. It's like a Facebook group, but different. It's on our website. And yeah, you share your struggles, your homework, you ask questions, you become friends, you learn how to give each other feedback on your artwork, how to support each other and lift each other up. And so artists are coming because of the masters we're working with, but they're staying because of the community they find. So we have seen artists, we're now into our 7th month, and no groups have folded or disbanded. Groups are now moving from their first master to their second master. They're saying, well, let's stay together and keep doing this. We might be done working with David Langevin or whomever. Let's now work with Topher Strauss, who is out of, he's in the States, northern states. Anyway, so yeah, it's really exciting, and these relationships are really impactful with the master and also with the peer group. It's been really lovely to see the relationship piece develop.
And so, so you were saying that the mentees kind of are at a similar state of their art. Would that be kind of, are there masters that specialize in kind of like the business part of the business versus the painting part of it, or is it kind of like is it workshops for actually improving your work, or understanding your feedback, or building your business?
Yeah, it's everything. So what we're trying to do differently at LU is we want to do mentorship, not just teaching, because there's a lot of teaching out there. You can do the pre-recorded video stuff, you can go to workshops. So what we're trying to put out there is that kind of true mentorship piece where it's led by the artists in the group, not necessarily by the master. The master, so when you sign up, when you become a member, you fill out as an artist a profile form where you can share your struggles, the obstacles you've encountered, what your goals are, and then the master and the navigator, who is the facilitator for the group, they look at all those goals and all that, and they sort of build a trajectory for the group so that your actual questions are being answered, your actual struggles are being overcome, that it's goal-oriented, so you're actually seeing measurable growth. So all of that can include workshop-y pieces. There might be some demos. It always includes business advice and even how to do social media. It depends on the masters. They each have their own, they fill out their own form so that we can learn what their strengths are. And we put that on the website for each master so that when an artist looks at them, they can see, oh, this is all the areas of expertise. And some masters like to focus in on certain areas, like Charlie Easton loves to do art critiques. So he focuses his group on that, and we make that clear on his page on the website so that artists that join this group know what they're getting into. Yeah, so it's really anything you need is there. All of the masters give business advice because they're all proven commercial career successful artists, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's really everything and anything that you need.
Well, I think obviously the community is important, but one of the things I think sounds like it's really critical is that critique portion of it. And I think as an independent artist, sometimes working in your home, it's really hard to get that critical analysis of your work that is structured in a way that's actually helpful to move you forward. I mean, sometimes it's hard to hear, right? But I think it's also, you put stuff out on social media sometimes. I see this in some of the Facebook groups, and it's always like, oh, it's great, it's wonderful, you just need your signature. I'm like, well, that doesn't help me get any better, right? Like, sometimes you need those hard criticisms that are kind of like, this part's working, that part's not working, that part looks kludgy, or this is what I would do, or this is how I see it, right? So it sounds like it's a really amazing place to get that kind of feedback.
Yeah, if you want it, you can get it. And some people don't want that sort of feedback, or they're not ready, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is even to get a little bit of feedback. Oh, if you had moved, the tree over an inch, it would have improved the composition drastically. So we're seeing now, after 7 months, artists who are learning those little compositional sort of details, and they're seeing improvement in their work and more sales, and getting into shows. And I see artists quitting their other job to go full time because they feel very well supported, and like, okay, now I have the community around me, and if I can be in a relationship with a master artist as I launch my career, then let's go for it. So that's been really exciting to see these artists that have been sort of waiting, and they haven't had the confidence to really launch, and now have the confidence to launch. It's been really, really amazing. Thank you. I'm just seeing a comment. Love Elu. Me too. It's an amazing job I have. I have two amazing jobs. I'm totally burnt out, but I love both of my jobs. It's fantastic.
Oh, that's perfect. I mean, well, I think I don't know, giving back, I think, is always a bit of a double-edged sword, because it feeds a part of you that allows you to kind of share the knowledge and help other people, and that feels good, but it can also become a bit overwhelming in terms of the amount of the time commitment, right? And I find, I'm sure you're in the same sort of boat, in the sense that I sometimes find, after I finish all my stuff with the Artist Network and all those commitments there, at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm just kind of tired. I don't know if I feel the joyful energy to go into the studio. So
yeah, that's
I'm
true.
doing my own mentoring to try and figure out how to kind of structure myself a bit more.
Yeah, and that's really, really important. Yeah, this is my mental health week, actually. Monday morning, I crashed. You're supposed to wake up Monday morning refreshed and ready to tackle a new week, and I just was done. So, yeah, I talked to my husband, Mike, who's also our CEO, and I'm like, I don't think I have anything to give. He said, well, then you should take the week off. I'm like, I think you're right. So it's lovely to be able to. I'm still painting, because realistically I have to get stuff done. But yeah, one job this week is nice.
Well, I think when you're a driver, you always are like that, right? I mean, I'm like that too, and to even to take the time off, it's hard to kind of take that time, but it's just so important, and that's kind of my life lesson, I think, that COVID has taught me, because the reality is that doing fewer shows, my life is a little bit less busy.
Okay.
It's to give myself permission to just kind of, it's a gorgeous day. I'm going to sit on the dock at the cottage for an hour and look at the lake.
Sounds amazing. Yeah, we all need to take more time like that. I have found the pandemic really busy, which has been nice, because I guess I haven't had time to really feel too lonely or disconnected. So that's been good, and art sales have gone up for sure over the pandemic. But yeah, you're right. It's a lot of giving and pouring into other things. So super important to take the time to rest and sit on the dock. I wish I had a dock. And a lake. A lake would be nice.
Well, yeah, I find, I normally live in the city of Toronto, and if it's all closed down, it makes more sense for me to kind of be at the cottage, which has been incredible. It's the first time I think I've really lived in a natural place, like not in the city, where you can actually really see the seasons and the flow of nature. You're just much closer to it, which has been really great. So I'm in the city right now, and I'm just dying to get back. I don't want the lake to break up with it. I don't want to miss it,
Oh yeah.
And it definitely changes the work too. So.
Yeah, absolutely. We need that constant inspiration, I think, or else we're pulling from a dry well too, right? It's fantastic to be in nature. It's just so powerful and filling and restful, but invigorating. It's really lovely. And I know as artists, we try to capture an element of that and put it out there for people. And to get it, it's like we take it in, we process it, and then we put it out again in a new, unique way, which is really, really interesting and exciting to be able to do that.
Well, I think, like you were saying too, that I think if you're an artist, you have a natural inherent maybe ability to be able to see the world in a bit of a different way. And by
Hmm.
being on canvas, then you're able to help other people who don't have that same eye to be able to kind of appreciate it and look at things a bit differently, which I think is
Hmm.
really pretty amazing skill to have.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. And that's the privilege piece that we get to do that for people. Um, I feel like artists are creators, and I think that people in general are creators, but artists have a unique role where we start with nothing and we build something unique that's beautiful. It's like if you look at nature and kind of the created world outside, and I'm a person of faith, so I believe that it's all created and that God went through a really fun process of designing and choosing colors just like an artist does. So I feel sort of that piece and that connection with the big picture, that I get to do that on a smaller scale in my studio, and I get to create this new little world on my canvas and pick what it looks like and what it is and the colors that I use and the feeling it and emotes. And so it's a not that I have a God complex, but there's definitely this.
No, for the execution of it, right? Yeah. And so, has your work? Do you think your work has changed during COVID? Because it seems to me like it's become brighter, which is
Oh yeah,
great.
that's a good question. Um, has it changed? I feel like actually I've had some feedback that my colors have become more gentle, which I think is good because my stuff can be pretty loud, and that's something that I've been struggling with and working towards, is having a little bit more areas of rest in my paintings. So I feel like I'm painting faster, mostly that has to do with the time piece, but I'm letting it come out easier. Yeah, but I don't know. I wonder. I should reflect on that if this pandemic has impacted what I'm painting or the colors I'm using. But you've seen it go brighter.
It just seems to me that that has been, yeah.
Cool. Well,
Not,
that's
I
neat.
mean, and partially too, because I'm very practical, very kind of bright, strong, jewel
Yeah.
tone colors, So it's kind of, like you were saying, you're a contrast person, I'm a color person, and I always see that. It's like, what do I like better, this paint or that paint? Oh, that paint's got bright yellow and pink in it. Of course, I love that one more.
Have you
Hmm?
have you seen a change in your work over the last year?
Um, well, I think at the beginning I was like you. I was super super busy, not only with the Artists Network but also just with commissions and stuff. So I didn't really have the time to process. I think fully process and internalize COVID.
Okay.
And so for me, it hit me about I don't know 7 or 8 months later, like probably the end of last year, where all of a sudden I noticed that my stuff was starting to get kind of darker and the colors were getting muddier. And the reason I really noticed it is because like, oh, I'm not selling these ones. What am I selling versus what am I not selling?
Oh.
And so I kind of took some time off. It took me a long time in January to get kind of back going because I was saying I was looking to do kind of color and flowers and something a little bit of a different shape.
Mm-hmm.
So I started doing those, and those are turquoises and brights, and I'm really happy with them. And then the other day I just started doing black, like black backgrounds, but then
Cool.
black with like bright yellows and oranges. So I still feel like it's kind of still joyful, but the black is almost like I don't know, what we've gone through and how we've kind of processed that. And it's dark, but it's on a wood panel, so there's still natural wood grain that you can kind of, it's
Hmm.
the nature and the energy piece of it. But I'm still working through that. So,
Yeah, and I have noticed in your work the black background, and I'm like, ooh, look at the contrast. So I saw that in your work, and I was like instantly drawn to it, like a moth to a flame. It's so funny how we have our things, right? For you, it's color. For me, it's contrast.
mhm. And yet
It's
you start to
interesting.
recognize too, like you see what you love in other people's work and not necessarily what they're seeing at their own work, which I always think is fascinating.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's why it's good to get it out there and to get in community and get feedback and hear, yeah, what people think and feel about your artwork. It's really important, I think.
Mhm. And I think, like me, you use acrylic paint, right? That gives you
Hmm.
kind of the strong dynamic
Yeah,
kind of color.
yeah, yeah. I'm a big. It's funny actually. I think more a lot of Canadian artists use acrylic. Since we're working with masters around the world, we're finding oil painters everywhere, but to find acrylic artists is mostly in Canada. It's really, I'm not sure why that is, but it's interesting.
Well, it's interesting too because I haven't even find that being a palette knife artist, because I only use a palette knife, that
Yeah.
it's not that prevalent except for Quebec. Quebec, you see a lot of palette knife artists. So
Oh,
I wonder just the
interesting.
history. I know how that happened.
Yeah, I wonder. Should be something to explore.
And there must have been some, obviously, masters or something that started. I mean, it kind of makes sense with Europe because that's kind of oil started there and the whole art
Yep.
history, Renaissance and stuff. But I
Hmm.
didn't know that acrylic paint was more kind of Canadian
Yeah,
based.
yeah, it seems to
Probably
be
North
so far.
American. Yeah.
Pardon me?
Probably North American because I'm just thinking that probably companies like
Mm.
DuPont probably developed a plastic polymer base that acrylic paint is built on or something like that. It'd be interesting. I've got
Yeah.
something to look at Wikipedia today.
Yeah, do some research. Yeah, too funny. Hmm.
So the leveling up is, are you a mentor there as well? Because I noticed you also do workshops yourself.
Oh, I've done a few workshops I've done a few workshops in the past, just out of my studio, back when that was something you could do. No, I'm not. I'm not one of the masters. I'm not even close to meeting the criteria for our masters. I do get asked that once in a while. But yeah, no. So our masters have at least 20 years under their belt with that sort of one craft, and are avid teachers, and are already doing workshops and mentoring. And I haven't done enough of that, even as well as the years I've been painting, only for 11 years. And what else? Our masters need to be active in the network, in the art community, even on social media. We look to see if they're interacting with their followers. And yeah, and then if their work is unique and obviously of great quality, and that they're commercially successful, whether that's gallery representation or strong online business, that sort of thing. So no, I am not. I do not meet the criteria yet.
And so do you think you'll continue to do workshops when you're kind of allowed to?
Um, Maybe, I'm not. When I do it, I'm glad that I did it. I love meeting the people who come, and but I'm a pretty serious introvert. So I hope that I'll do more of that. I know that the demand is out there. I get asked a lot about that. So I should. I hope to say yes, I will.
I,
Do
I
you
think
do?
I think it's a hard thing. No, I'm asked a lot as well, actually.
Hmm.
And I'm an extrovert, so I love the people part of it. And I love the energy of doing things with other people. I just am not a very patient teacher, I don't think. Like if it was kind of every Tuesday or something like that. Like, and even with these, the reason I like them is because they're spontaneous, they're authentic. I don't
Mm,
have to think them. I want it to be very much in the moment.
yeah.
So I do, I'm part of a company with Angela that does creative adventures, and those are creativity retreats for non-artists.
Oh,
But
cool.
so then but for me, it's great because then I get to learn new stuff. Like, oh, we're going to do stained glass. We're going to do hand painted silk scarves. I'm going to do some painting. And Angela's going to do some caustic. And so it's kind of like a 3 hour, drink some wine, have some fun. It's same, like you were saying, building a community, connecting
Mm,
people, opening them up to tapping into their own creativity really I get a real charge out of that.
that's very cool. Sounds good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm the best teacher either, or the most patient teacher either. Not to say I'm snapping the whip or anything, but I don't always know how or why I do what I do either. So I find the teaching is really enlightening, and helps me to understand, because I have to dive into why I do it, because I didn't go to art school. Didn't learn composition or color theory, and I have a lot to learn still. But I do some things innately, right? Like most artists do. And then to
Yeah.
figure out, okay, why did I do this composition and use those colors? Oh, because I see that actually the balance is really important on this area here, or whatever it is I have to examine, because inevitably I'm going to be asked. a question that I may not know the answer to, but I've done it. I've done it on my painting. I don't know why. So yeah, it's
And
interesting.
also, I went to art school and I learned all that stuff. It was so long ago too. Like,
Oh,
you've internalized it so deeply at this point that I do think it is interesting. It is one of the things I do love about doing these creative adventures is because you are kind of forced to think about what you do and how you do it. But it also helps you to articulate it in a language of, it's very different, I think, teaching to non-artists versus artists, because with artists, you already have an existing vocabulary. With non-artists, you don't even have that vocabulary, which
mm,
is just so interesting to kind of work through. And I do think it helps my own work, and it feeds the fun extroversion part of it that I need as well, which is kind of fun.
hmm.
So I'm looking forward to doing those. And a lot of people say, "Oh, you should do them online." I'm like, "Yeah, but that kind of doesn't really do the whole thing of getting together with people, So
Yeah,
we'll do
yeah.
what we can.
Yeah, it's definitely trickier on Zoom. Like with Leveling Up, we do all of our sessions are on Zoom. So there's a beauty though that we have found, and we've seen that people are actually a little bit more comfortable when there's a screen separating them from the rest of the group, where they can feel a little bit like, for me, working with David Langevin, I'm much more comfortable doing it on Zoom than I am if I was at a workshop talking to him face to face. So there is an element of, for an introvert, that makes you feel a little bit more safe when it's online. But yeah, you're right. The in person is a different experience too. Both good.
Well, I think we found actually that through therapy as well, like because now they're doing therapy sessions through Zoom, and they actually are finding that same thing, as it allows people to be a little bit more comfortable opening up. And I think as an extrovert, I kind of know, because I'm very conscious of this when I have these events, that you need to really be conscious of making sure the introvert doesn't get overlooked and that they have their voice and have their time to talk, because they're not as open to sort of, just blurt out how they're feeling, right?
So true. I'm good in a group up till about four people, and then I'm just a fly on the wall. I don't know how to break into conversation. I'm not loud enough or assertive enough. It's so funny. We're all so different.
That makes it so fun.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're almost kind of getting close to wrapping up with our time, but is there kind of one really good business tip that you think you could offer to other artists if they're kind of, really looking to take their art into a business as opposed to just
Hmm.
being home?
That is a good question. Business advice. I would say that now is a great time to be an artist launching a career. I think the days of the galleries holding the key to our success are over. Now an artist can build an online business and following, with some training, can do that very well. So I see artists doing that fully and abandoning the galleries and saying, you know what, I'm not even going to try, and they're doing great on their own. And I think that's good. And I see other artists that are really focused on getting gallery representation, and that's good. I love my galleries, and I want to support them and make sure that galleries survive, the next 50 years of everyone being very independent online, right? And I see artists trying to tackle both, and that's where I'm at. And it's tricky, definitely, to do both. You have to be working with galleries that support you doing an online business as well. So I think it's a great time to be an artist, and with a little bit of support, you can really build your own career your way.
Yeah. And so if money and time and everything were no options, is always the question I like to end up with. What would your big hairy ass goal be?
Ooh, if time and money. Oh, it's very selfish. I would have my my goal would be to have, okay, so twofold. With Leveling Up, my goal is to have Leveling Up centers around the world with artists and masters coming together to create together, to learn together. I see us having a big office in Calgary someday with a huge studio where we work and where we play. And
Wow.
that it's just this point of connection all over the world. That's my big hairy ass goal. But Also, I would love to have studios all over the world for myself. I'm like, okay, I feel like going to Italy this week, honey. Let's pack up. And yeah, so nah, nothing big.
Those are amazing hairy ass goals. I love those.
We'll see, right? We'll see.
Okay, so just before we finish up, why don't you share with everybody your website, your Instagram, the Leveling Up website, so that when people can find you, they know where to look.
All right, should I type it in or just say it? What's the
You
best
can,
bet?
you can just say it, and I'll actually add it into the notes.
Oh, cool. Thank you. All right. So my website is juliedeboerart.ca, and I'm actually just in the middle of rebuilding it. It'll be .com. And my Instagram is julie.deboer.art. What else? I'm on Facebook. You can, it's still a private page, but you can request to be my friend. And yeah, those are my handles.
And levelingup.ca.
Yes, thank you. Levelingup.ca. We're actually rebranding, so it's going to be LU something soon. Leveling Up was more the leadership stuff we did before, so we're going to come up with something a little more creative. But yes, levelingup.ca, that's where you find us. And there's a little Facebook Messenger on the website, so if ever you have a question, it goes directly to me or my husband, Mike. So if you want my advice on what master to work with, or you have a question, just use that little Facebook chat, and we'll connect with you really quick.
And if you're interested in being a mentor, is there kind of an ongoing kind of program where they can kind of come on at any time, or?
Yeah, right now we are inviting masters to join our team, but we do have at the bottom of our website is a careers button or a link. So you can go to our careers page where you can learn about becoming a master or a navigator. Our navigators are a really important piece of our puzzle. They are facilitators and artists, and they kind of assist the master, but also work with the group in between sessions. They're an amazing and very important piece of the success of our community and networking piece. So yeah, it's on the website. Go check it out. And if you meet the requirements, all the requirements are on there. If you seem like a good fit, then the email is there. You can email us your stuff, and we'll take a look for sure.
Okay, well, that sounds great. Well, I want to thank you for taking your time out of your week off to come and chat with us. So it's been great.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed learning about your program, and I always love to see your art when it comes up to my feed.
Thank you, Kate, and likewise. Really good to meet you face to face finally, and I enjoy your work too.
Well, maybe one day we'll do the real face to face.
Yes, absolutely.
We'll talk to your studio in Italy, and then we'll just do some painting.
We'll have leveling up retreats all over the world. You can add that to my. Yep, we'll see. Yeah, that would be lovely. It's so good to meet you. Thank you for the time today, this morning. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks so much for joining me. That was great. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so I'm not quite sure how to, oh, there she goes. So anyway, that was great. So there's lots of information. I'll put the emails into the body of the work, or into the body of Instagram. And there's my timer. If you've missed any back sessions, then feel free to check them out on my Instagram page or on Facebook. Most of them are uploaded now onto the youtube.com/Kate Taylor Art. If you can subscribe or like, that would be cool. I'm in the process of doing a podcast. It is slower than I anticipated, just because to separate the audio has been kind of a bit of a challenge, but I just uploaded one for, I think, Carolyn Laidley Arn the other day. So I invite you to check that out. And I shall see you same bat time, same bat channel next week, where we will be talking to Marianne, who runs the Red Art Gallery out in Victoria, BC. And after that, we've got Lisa, who is joining us. She actually runs the artwork on the book Blink, which is actually sent to art designers across Canada and the US, mostly the US, and also runs ADC Art Design Consultants in Cincinnati. So you do not want to miss that one. She's got lots of great news to tell you. So anyway, have a fabulous day. Enjoy the sunshine, and we will see you next week.